right, we're here with Maurice Peoples, and we're going to start with our first topic today. And we're going to be dealing with plant selection, types of plants, and talking about hardiness zone versus heat zone. And where did you want to start first, the plant selection or the hardiness zone versus heat zone? Because that's pretty interesting.
Well, let's just start with plant selection.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, the whole thing with plant selection is just kind of knowing what type of plants are out there and what you're purchasing. We'll get into knowing the hardiness zone on why you can buy certain plants versus other plants. And first off, you have annual plants. And annual plants are plants that can complete their life cycle within growing season. And when we talk about complete their life cycle, they'll grow, they'll flower, and they'll produce seed all in one season. Then you have plants that are called biennials. And biennials, they take 2 years to complete their life cycle. So the first year they produce basically foliage, and then the second year, in that first year, they're producing enough energy in the plant to be able to produce flowers and fruit or whatever the second year. Then we move on to what we call perennials. And oh, I lost you, Paul. You still there?
Yeah, you came back.
Okay. Perennials are plants that live 3 or more years. And when you look at the perennial group, you have a group that are called herbaceous perennials, which are flowers. And then you have woody perennials, which are trees and shrubs. And with herbaceous perennials, they die back to the ground at the end of the year. Whereas you see woodies and shrubs, because they have a woody structure to them, they don't die back and they just continue growing and getting bigger and bigger every year.
Okay, but that
And
also includes deciduous trees and bushes, right?
correct. So then when you get to the perennial, excuse me, shrubs and trees, then you have a classification that you call deciduous, which they lose their leaves in the winter. Okay. And then you have evergreen trees and shrubs, and they have two different kinds of classifications. One is a broadleaf evergreen, which is like rhododendrons, azaleas, and hollies. They hold their leaves all winter long. Or you have what we call needled evergreens or conifers, which are like your pines and your spruces and your firs. And a conifer is any plant that produces a cone-like shaped seed
Okay.
on them.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's why they're called cone.
What about junipers, like cedar and the other junipers? Don't they produce like berries or something?
Juniper produce like a little berry, but arborvitae have a little cone on them that they produce.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, when you look at them, um, but they would still be considered because they have a needle, like with the spruces. So you would still kind of put them in a like the conifer family.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, as far as that goes. Um, So that's kind of definitions that you have with different types of plant material.
So with
That you,
that, with that, I have a question now. Are there annuals that will reseed themselves so that
yes, but they still could be considered an annual because they're going to die. It's not the same plant coming back
it's
the
new
next year.
plants? It's
It's
new
a new
plants.
plant that's coming up.
Okay,
Okay,
so then biennials aren't really a new plant. They're the same plant for the 2 years.
correct.
Okay.
Okay. Now, one thing you can have is digitalis or foxglove is a common flower that's a biennial. And so the first year it grows, the second year it comes up and produces a flower. Now, this is where different people would do different things with biennials. Um, you can let them go to seed, they'll drop their seed, and then they'll come up the next year. Okay.
Uh-huh.
But that next year, the new plant isn't going to have a flower with it. So, what
Okay.
some people will do is if you have a few of them going in a certain area, is you can kind of trick the plant. If you go in that year that it's flowering, if you go in and you cut the flower seed off, the flower head off before it goes to seed, the plant doesn't seem to recognize that it's in its second year. So the third year, when it comes up, because when it dies back, it hasn't produced any seed. So it will produce a flower the third year.
Okay.
So if you let some of those second year plants go to seed and drop seed and cut some of the other ones off, then you may have a continuous flowering going on, because then the second year or the third year that one plant's been in the ground, it's producing vegetative plants for the following year to produce flowers.
Okay.
So people kind of try to trick their plants that way. Usually when you go to a nursery and you're buying a biennial, it's already in its second year, because people usually don't buy
Right.
it. They don't see what the flower looks like or whatever. They're not going to purchase it until they see it in flower.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm the same way. I want to see what it looks like to see if I like it before I'm going to purchase it.
Right.
So usually you're buying a second year plant, and when you plant it in the ground, you're going to get a flower that year. Okay. Now sometimes it may be a little bit cheaper for them to sell something that's a first year plant, and you can ask them at the nursery, is it going to flower this year? And they'll know if
Okay.
it's a second year plant or not, and they can tell you, yeah, it's going to bloom this year, or they're going to say, no, it's not going to bloom until next year.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What about bulbs? Bulbed plants. Are those considered perennial, or what are those considered?
Depending on what bulb you have.
Of course.
Okay. Okay. Because even with bulbs, and we'll get to it, they have a hardiness zone that they can grow in. Well, they'll come back every year. Okay. Like a dahlia. Okay. Most areas, I'm not sure in your area, but probably in your area, you could leave your dahlia bulbs in the ground. Here we have to dig our dahlia bulbs up, okay, and then replant them next year.
Like canna lilies. Canna lilies, for the most part, we leave in the ground here.
Yes, it's warm enough for you to leave them in the ground.
Yeah.
Cannas, we have to dig up.
Right.
Dahlias, we have to dig up, and then replant them. Tulips, daffodils, hyacinths, we can live in the ground. But tulips are very hard to come back. Tulips, where they grow naturally, are pretty dry in the summertime. Here, the issue that we have with our tulips and most of our bulbs, we intermix planting our bulbs with our annuals and other plants. And during the summer, those plants need water. Tulip bulbs want to be dry during the summer. They're like in the onion family. So if they get too much moisture in the summertime, then they're going to rot in the ground and they're not going to come back.
Okay.
And also, a lot of the tulips, most tulip bulbs aren't strong enough. You have to do fertilizing, but a lot of times the bulb type itself isn't what we call a regenerative bulb, and they die back anyhow on their own. There are some tulips that you can plant in the ground, and they'll tell you, um, they'll come back year in and year out
Okay.
if you give them the care that they need to have.
What about some of the edibles like daylilies? Um, those are bulbs, are they not?
They're rhizome.
They're rhizome. Okay. Okay. Well, then
Okay.
let's talk about rhizome.
You have rhizomes,
Mm-hmm.
you have corms that are a little bulb. Um, you have tubers, like a daffodil is more like a rhizome. Um, the bulb grows more along the surface. It's not a deep growing bulb.
Right,
Okay.
right, but they'll spread
Dahlias,
out. The rhizome
that's
is going to
right.
create a new plant, and that's a difference.
Right. Um, Dahlias are a tuber. And when you look at a dahlia bulb, you'll see these different tubes coming down off the main stem that are growing and so forth that you can split. But they're what we're considered a tuber.
Okay.
Let me see. Anemones, gladiolus, okay,
Mm-hmm.
or like a corn. It's how can I describe it? It's just like a little round bulb.
Now, does it grow next to the tuber, or does it grow a little bit away on roots?
Oh,
The horn.
it would be kind of like, it's unusual. It would be kind of like a tuber, but the corm grows on top of the other corm. So it's like stacking itself
That's
on
what I was
top of
getting at.
another.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, and it's like stacking itself on top of each other.
Okay. So then, like elderberry or milkweed, you that's not really a rhizome, is it? I mean, that's just how the root grows, and then a new shoot comes up. What is that called? And
That's a rhizome.
oh, it's still a rhizome.
Okay,
Okay. Okay.
okay, it's still rhizome, and you have stolons and you have rhizomes, and they're basically what they're underground vegetative growth. The difference between a rhizome and a stolon, a rhizome grows below the ground, and the stolon grows more on the surface of the ground. And like a strawberry plant
Gotcha.
sends runners out,
Yes.
okay, okay, and those would be like stoloniferous, is what we'll say, but stolons are more on the surface of the ground. Now, strawberries can grow both below and above the ground, but
Yeah.
that's basically the difference
Okay, but
between.
basically strawberries go above. It's kind of like oregano does that. If the branch touches the ground,
Right.
it will start. It'll start another plant. You know.
Correct.
Well, actually, even a tomato will do that. Correct.
Correct. And other plants, you can do that even with trees and shrubs. You can bend down.
As a propagation, yeah, as a propagation.
That's for the
technique.
propagation.
Yep.
Yep. So you can bend down, and it'll root where you put that below the ground and root on there, and then get a new plant that way.
Yep. Now I just
So
did that recently. I just did that recently with one of my beautyberry bushes, and last fall I bent two of the branches down in two places, and so now I have 4 new beautyberry bushes, and was able to cut it and transplant, where that touched. the ground.
Right.
And
Right.
wow, what a fast way to duplicate. Again, I
Another
know
point.
that's propagation and that's not our topic, but
That's all right.
but you brought it up and I got excited, so can't help it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay. Um, so we were at the rhizomes, that the different way of spreading, and so annuals, biannuals, and perennials is what we
Right.
kind of covered so far.
Right. And that's any plant that you're gonna buy is gonna fall in one of those groups.
Okay, so
And
one of the things is like with our people here, and again, most of what we're doing is edibles, but there are more and more of our people getting more into into the flowers, into making the garden beautiful as well as
mhm,
functional.
right, right.
A big thing, buzzword around here, is food forest, and so in food forest we're looking for a lot of edible perennials, so that
Uh-huh.
it's just kind of growing on its own, and
Sure.
so where is well, we've got lots of annuals because we still like to grow normal garden things,
Right.
carrots and peppers and things like that. Um,
Right.
but what are some of the advantages of biennials, and what are the advantages and disadvantages of perennials?
Okay.
Kind of a loaded
Well,
question.
no. And it goes back to, it's really pretty simple. Um, the reason we grow annuals, okay, is basically because once they get going, they flower the whole season. Okay.
Okay.
Perennials usually have a short flowering time. Okay. So it's mm, basically 2 weeks that
Okay.
it's in bloom. Okay. Um, your biennials, the biennials are basically because you're growing them because you like you like that flower or whatever, and that's just the lifespan. Now, let me back up. A lot of plant material that people are growing, if you're herbologist or whatever, okay, digitalis is for the heart, okay. Um, if you want to use that plant, then you the only way you're going to get it is a biennial.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
you can't get it as a perennial, or whatever. Or even if it was an annual, you'd have to grow it over a year, every year. Um, Perennials, there's a lot of herbs that you can grow in your particular location, more so than we can up here, that are perennial. So here, there's certain perennials that are herbs that we can grow, and we can grow year in and year out as a perennial, but others we have to replant every year, like basil. Basil isn't going to hold up here,
Right.
okay, in the wintertime. So we have to replant it. So the advantages are basically what you want your plant material to be and what you want to use it for.
Okay. Okay. Now,
Okay,
what?
that's why you're growing it.
Yeah. Do you know? Um, what biannual edibles are there?
I don't. Well, I don't know
Me neither. And it just
because
hit me.
I don't know a whole lot of biennials anyhow, but
Oh,
that I can
okay.
think of right offhand.
Okay.
But yeah, basically,
So really, what
it's
we're
going to be an annual. It's going to be an annual, or it's going to be a perennial.
and yeah, basically, it's going to be those two, especially for our uses here in in our group and all. is the annuals and the biennials, and then and then as we're getting into the plant selection, we and we're going to do a whole topic on microclimates. So I don't want to
Okay. Yeah.
I don't want to get too much into that, but we can at
Sure.
least get into shade, partial shade, and full sun.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Those are some of the things that we have to consider here. And if it's
Sure.
if it's full sun here, it better be pretty heat and drought tolerant.
Right. 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 And like the herbs, most of our herbs, where do they come from? They come from the Mediterranean, okay, which is a hot and dry climate,
Right.
okay. So definitely they're going to be in full sun. They're not going in shade too much in the Mediterranean.
Right.
So those are things that we're looking at, and so that kind of brings us to, okay, we want to talk about hardiness zone.
Yes.
Hardiness zone map, okay? And the reason we have the hardiness zone map is it teaches us about cold tolerance of plant material that you're purchasing. And it's an average of what the minimum cold temperature is in your area during the wintertime. And the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, has a hardiness zone map, and it has 13 different zones across the United States. Okay, and each one of those zones has a 10-degree Fahrenheit change between each one of them.
Okay.
Now, you guys, and the way you find out what zone you're in, you can go to the USDA map and type in your zip code, and it will tell you what hardiness zone you're living in.
Okay.
Now, for your area, you're in zone 9.
Well, actually, like right where we are, we are like on a border. There's 8A, 8B, and 9.
Okay.
So I mean,
Okay.
it's a mix. It's kind of a weird, So East Texas has all three of those.
Okay. Yeah. Well, but what I was going to say is, from Courtney, she sent me your zip code, so that's why I put your zip code in, and it gave me your zip code, a 9, zone 9.
Okay.
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 Like each zone, but like you say, each zone is broken up into 9A. They're broken up into subzones.
Right.
Okay. So you would have 9A, 9B that you could be possibly falling into. But what it's saying is the lowest temperature for zone 9, your average low temperature can be anywhere from 20 degrees to 30 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yep.
For your average temperature.
And that's kind of a general rule, but there's times we've dipped into single digits. There's times we've dipped into the teens for a few days.
Right.
When Sally and I first moved here, kind of like the following spring, well, that fall, November, we dropped down to 7 degrees on one night. And so now that's not normal, of course, but those things happen. But
sure.
but for the most part, you're right,
yeah, and the other thing is the longevity and so forth. Now, the way they came up with this map is they have 13,000 different weather locations throughout the country. And so then they take those readings every year
And do averages.
and kind of average them out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's an average. And they usually update it every 10 to 15 years. The mapping and so forth. And the last time that they did an update was in November 2023. Okay, was the last time
So we're fairly
that
current,
they did an
really.
update.
Yeah, so we're fairly current.
So you're still kind of fairly current.
Okay.
Right. Now, we've been updated. Now, for us, we're in zone 5. And for us,
I'm sorry, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry, by the way, that you're.
Well, yeah, I am too at times. We're zone 5, and the average was 10 degrees below zero. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
10 degrees below to zero for the low minimum temperatures. Now, over the last couple of years, because of global warming, they moved us to zone 6. So they moved us up to a warmer
Okay.
zone. Okay. But like this year, we had a typical zone 5 winter that we used to have. So
yeah, and you're going to have a frost
like when
next
you're buying
week.
plant material.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
gonna,
So when you're buying frost material,
yeah.
I mean when you're buying plant material, yeah. Now I moved to this warmer zone, so now I'm planting zone 6 plants, and they didn't make it last year, or they didn't make it this year, because once again, it's an average. Doesn't mean that we've been bouncing back and forth all the time. They keep changing it because it's an average. So people need to remember that it's an average when you're looking at buying certain plant material that I really like that are zone 6 that I will kind of take a chance on because I really like it. But if I lose it, I know there's a good possibility that I can lose it, even though I try to protect it. I may try to lose it. And there's some plant material here. I plant it as an annual, and if I get a couple of years out of it, I'm good.
Yeah.
And those are flowers. Those aren't necessarily the bigger plant material that I'm chanting, but those are more like flowers, herbaceous perennials.
Yeah. 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 Oh, yeah. So the one of the things, so we know what zone we're in. So how do we consider this? Like I was saying, next week, you guys are going to have a frost up there. I already checked your weather. Okay.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow. So this week, I didn't know it was tomorrow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going to have a
tomorrow.
frost. Yeah. I don't think that we will have another frost here. I would be surprised. We usually have our last frost over the time that I've been here. We had one in mid-March. We had one towards the end of March. But what's wisdom in this? As an individual homesteader, do you just kind of, you can't just go by a gut feeling, but you just kind of look at, okay, what's happened the last couple years? Because like you said, it's 10, 15 years before they adjust it.
That's right. I would check with your extension service. Okay. Now for us, okay, our usual annual frost date for in the spring, okay? And they call it the last frost date, okay? The one in the fall is the first frost date.
Right.
But one in the spring, our average annual last frost date here is May 15th. But we've had frost all the way up until May 28th.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you're going to plant something, you need to be able to protect it. Okay.
Yeah, great
somehow, some way.
Great
now,
point.
for you guys, when I checked for 9A, it said April 20th was your average last frost date. Okay.
Interesting.
And your first frost date was supposedly October 20th, the one in the fall.
Yeah, very
is your
interesting.
average frost date for that.
So in case
So
in
it depends
point,
on what you.
yeah, case in point, the last 2 years that I've been here, it was November our first frost date, and then in March our last frost date. You know, for the last couple years. So but I think your point with you need to have the tools to protect your plants regardless when you're playing those borders. You just need to have it. You know,
Correct.
whether
Correct.
it's floating row cover or plastic. I don't know. I don't care if it's a whole bunch of black buckets. You know, but you have to have a plan.
Right.
Yeah. You need to have that plan
That's right.
out there.
That's
right. I mean, I remember in Ohio, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and the other thing is to know what you're planting. So if you're planting cool crops, you know they can handle some of that frost, right. And it's not a lot of work going out and covering stuff over. So you have to kind of know what you're planting also.
Yep. I agreed. Now, what I was going to say was, you know, I never took my tomato plants outside until the first week of June. I never took them out because that it would just ruin them, and I'm a tomato fanatic. So you know, there's no way I'm going to risk sacrificing my tomatoes. So it was always June. You know, to put the tomatoes in the ground up there. Here we can get them in early, and then we can protect them if we have something crazy happen. You know, but Anyway, yeah. So okay. Go ahead.
The other thing, real quick, I was going to say is that when we're looking at the hardiness zone, you don't want to. You're planting something. Okay, you're zone 9. Okay, so if you want to plant something out there that can take colder weather and not worry about it, you don't want to go more than 2 zones lower than what your hardiness zone is.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
great.
So you don't really want to. You want to plant something zone 8. That's fine. Something zone 7. That may be pushing it, but you don't want to get. Okay, if you're planting something that's hardy in zone 6 or whatever, because the issue is not so much the winter weather, it's coming through the winter, all right. It's the summer heat that they can't necessarily handle.
Got it.
So you're going to lose it with the summer heat. And so that's where we come into where you have, they have another classification that they just started in 1977, which is a heat zone map. Okay.
77.
And that's where the heat zone map.
Okay. I'm glad we
that was. Okay. So now we go to the heat zone map, and the University of Washington, okay, their extension service, 50% of the plant material if people are having issues and so forth with their plant material, they can take it to their extension office, and the extension office will look at it and tell them, oh, you know, this is from an insect, this is from a disease issue. But any other issues, they were seeing 50% of the issues were something other than diseases or insects that were killing the plants. Okay.
What percentage?
So they started keeping 50%.
Oh, wow.
So they were doing research and looking at stuff, and they came up with finding out that at 86 degrees Fahrenheit, okay, plant material starts having physiological problems in the plant, and that's what was causing the plant to die. Okay, so they made up this map, and you go to it's the American Horticulture Society that has this map, and they have 12 zones, and the zones are broken down into how many days you have over 86 degrees in your zone. And zone 1 has no 86 degrees at all temperatures during the summer, and zone 12 has 210 or more 90-degree days in there, you know, throughout their growing season. So that's how they kind of made up their map according to how many 86-degree days you have, okay, throughout your area.
Which is important. Okay, so now what you're saying is this is pretty important to plant health, to understanding our heat zone, right?
Right.